Well, good evening. I'm Hector Gunther. I'm the chair of the Barnstable Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee, and this is January 13th, 2025, our first meeting of the new year. Under state law, I have to ask whether anyone else is taping this meeting, and if so, to make himself or herself known. And hearing none, we'll have a roll call. Chris Lazan, would you call the roll, please?
Hector,
Yes.
Chuck,
Present.
Lillian,
Here.
Jim,
Present.
Tom,
Here.
Jeremy,
Present.
Chris King,
Here.
and I am present, so we're all here.
Awesome. That's great. All right. Well, the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was December 9th. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second the motion.
Excellent. Are there any comments on these minutes? Hearing none. Chris Lazone, will you call the roll to approve the minutes?
Hector,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Chris King,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Right. So that's a unanimous approval. Perfect. All right. Next item on the agenda is presentation by the Barnstable School Department on the fiscal 2026 capital improvement plan submissions, and also to discuss the school department's December 4th, 2024 presentation to the school committee on school facilities. So I'll turn it over to Sarah and her team. Please go ahead, Sarah. And Happy New Year, Sarah.
Oh, Happy New Year to you as well, Hector, and to the other members of CFAC. It's very nice to be here tonight. As we've already identified, Chris Dwelly, the Deputy Director of Finance for the school department, is here, and Doug Bowlanger, the Director of Facilities, is joining us as well. And we're
Right.
really pleased to be sharing with you the capital submissions for this year for FY26, and also talk a little bit about some of the bigger picture topics that has come to school committee for presentation and discussion as part of our work with the facilities subcommittee. And so Doug joins us. He started with us in August and hit the ground running. We've also hired a deputy director for facilities, Katri Mullally. She's not attending this evening, but we do have new leadership at the helm of the facilities department, and welcome them and their perspective. So if it's okay with you, I don't know that I have the ability to share my screen, but
you're all set. You should be able to.
Okay, great. What I'll do is I will share the spreadsheet that Chris Dwelly sent out to you today, and Doug can talk a little bit about the capital projects that are in this year's submission.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Sarah, if you could make the screen a little bit larger, or the exhibit a little larger, that would be good. Yeah, that probably works.
Okay.
Yep, I think that works.
All right, Doug, do you want to kick us off with the various requests that are here?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and welcome for the opportunity, and glad to meet you all. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Out of there were 21 original CIP submissions, and out of those, we removed 4 of them, and we've added 3 new ones, and that's probably what you're seeing. I think 1A, 2A, and 7A. And I can go through each one. Well, first I'll start with the one we removed was the roof replacement, and we're moving that to FY 27 as we're also looking to present that for other opportunities and other funding through MSBA. So
What
now-
is that acronym? MSBA? You just used-
MSBA, it stands for the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and
Okay,
they
good.
have a program for things, big ticket items like roofs. And I'll let you capture that. It looks like you're taking some notes.
Yeah,
They they provide, if we are accepted, the intention here is to submit a statement of interest. And if we were to be accepted, we could expect the state to pay for a sizable portion, somewhere maybe between 30 to 50% of the cost of the roof. And so this is a high enough expense item that we anticipate putting an application into the state. So it came off of the FY 26 capital list. So that we could submit the application to the state, and then in FY 27, that $14 million might be half as much if we were to be accepted by the state.
excellent. Okay, thank you for that.
Sarah, may I ask, what is your confidence level that that would be accepted? The 13 million is kind of, it's a big number, but also really necessary. What are your thoughts or experience on that?
I think that we have a good chance of being accepted. It all depends on the number of applications that get put forward by other districts and how much money the state has available. But we're going to put it forward as a high or top priority, and we'll see what they say.
Has this agency ever supported Barnstable projects in the past, Sarah, to your knowledge?
They have. I don't have the list off the top of my head right now, but they have supported projects. Perhaps as Doug continues on, I might be able to find out which ones those were.
Right, and
I
it's fair to
can-
say, sorry, go ahead.
I can assist Sarah with that in, just
Okay.
for history, the renovation and expansion of the high school, as well as the renovation of Barnstable Intermediate School, were both part of the old MSBA program, but nothing significant once they developed their new MSBA program.
Okay.
They have provided us significant funding in the past for those two facilities.
Right, but much like, whoops, hold on one second, I lost you. Much like the other state agencies that give out money, the competition for this agency's funds is probably intense. Is that a fair statement?
There will be multiple submissions by different districts,
Yeah. Okay,
so you don't
Thank
always
you.
get accepted the first time.
yeah, all right, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Doug.
Could I jump in and ask one other question?
Sure.
Sure.
I know there's been a conversation about doing a microgrid with the Adult Community Center, BIS and BHS. And certainly there was also some proposals of maybe a green roof and some other elements that might be a bit novel. Do you think, A, is that microgrid process in a point where you could add it to the submission? And might that help the argument with the state if it's something maybe a little more novel and new with some eco-friendly features that maybe others don't have?
Great question. The state is definitely open to the idea of bundling financial resources from multiple areas. And in fact, they just sent information around different funding sources that might be able to complement both state and local dollars. I think that the microgrid project is so early that there's still a lot to be determined with it.
Okay, thanks.
Agreed. All right, well, I'll start with the, if I go too fast, just stop me and let me know. But I'm gonna start with the new request and what we've changed into request number 1A. And that is to put a complete HVAC equipment replacement at Barnstable United Elementary School. This project objective will be to replace all of the HVAC equipment at Barnstable United Elementary School. The equipment has exceeded its life expectancy and is long overdue to be replaced. Repairs have been constant and ongoing to the point that a majority of the units do not work adequately and need to be replaced. And this also has been affecting the indoor air quality. As far as indoor air quality assessment by the state of Massachusetts, details numerous deficiencies, which we have taken care of and we have addressed and we have repaired, but they came at a large cost.
Doug, if I could just ask a question. So this is
Sure.
$9 million over a couple of years. It's a brand new line item in this budget. Had this been considered previously and discarded for some reason?
It actually was, it's on for, I think, 27 or 28, and I'm moving
Okay.
it up to 26
Okay.
just because of the, what we found and what we've been experiencing at BUE,
Okay.
since August.
So
this
it's
is
so it's
basically
new.
the,
It's just you're just moving the million and 8 million expenditures in each of those two respective fiscal years up 1 year, but it was in a
Correct.
prior budget.
Correct.
Okay.
It's always
Okay.
been on there,
Okay.
through the Collier, basically, assessment list. But everything that we've learned with BUE, it was time to bring it up.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
All right, number 2A, actually, this one is to remove and replace the gym floor at the high school. This project will remove the existing parquet floor, the rubber floor below it, and the plywood, and replace it with a new parquet floor according to current high school gym and professional basketball standards. What we've been learning is that this gym floor was installed over the existing rubber floor. And basically it went rubber, then plywood, then parquet. What's happening to this floor is it's buckling, it's lifting, it's bubbling. If any water gets underneath it, it's not really hurting the parquet, it's actually hurting the plywood, and the plywood is lifting up off the rubber. So we've been patching it, we've been repairing it, but being the amount of use that this high school gym gets, as well as all the competitions that take place at this high school gym, it's kind of imperative that this floor be removed and replaced and repaired correctly. And additionally onto this, we would be the new current logo will be put on the floor, will be replaced with the new Red Hawks logo. I think the old logo is still on that old floor as we speak.
Mhm.
Typically, how long does the rubber floor last? The rubber portion.
The rubber portion, I think I was led to believe that it would last like 10 to 15 years. You're going to see further on down the line, there is also a gym floor replacement for BIS. That has a rubber floor, and that rubber floor would have to be scoured and then re-poured as a new floor. So they kind of start to fade off, they start to wear, and they start to, fortunately, BIS's floor is not, a hindrance or dangerous. It's just wearing and it needs to be redone. I think you'll see that down in number 8.
Thank you.
So Chris, was this new and not presented at the CIP task force meeting last week? Or is this just, have you moved it forward like the HVAC system?
We
We moved it forward.
There you go. Thanks,
Okay.
Chris.
Okay.
All right, number 3 is the digital direct control upgrades to the HVAC equipment. This is to all 9 Barnstable schools. The objective here is with this project will be to upgrade all existing pneumatic control systems to direct digital control. This will include all HVAC systems. There are a number of reasons why it is necessary to upgrade all 9 schools. all 9 Barnstable public schools to HVAC controls with pneumatic to DDC. It improves energy efficiency. DDC controls are more precise and efficient than pneumatic controls, which lead to significant energy savings. They reduce maintenance costs. They improve comfort. They enhance indoor air quality. DDC controls can be used to improve indoor air quality by monitoring the controlling levels of carbon dioxide, volatile organic compounds, and other pollutants. The extended equipment life, DDC controls can help to extend the life of HVAC equipment by preventing it from overheating or overcooling. Improve security. DDC controls can be integrated with security systems to monitor and control HVAC equipment outside of school hours. Increase flexibility, improve data collection and analysis. And in addition to these benefits, upgrading the DDC controls can also help to improve the learning environment for students. Studies have shown that students perform better in a classroom that are comfortable and have a good indoor air quality. As we've been going forward with any new HVAC equipment, we've been making sure that it has the DDC controls. The BIS project currently underway and just actually out to bid right now and being qualified is with all new DDC controls. So it's where we're headed. This particular CIP is asking that all existing equipment change from pneumatic to DDC, and it's taken over years. All right, number 4, the Performing Arts Center upgrades and repairs over at the Barnstable High School. The goal of this project is to improve the conditions at the Performing Arts Center at Barnstable High School by replacing the seating, adding new track lighting, upgrading the sound system, and replacing the main fire curtain. Upgrade outdated safety equipment. There are a number of compelling reasons to repair and upgrade the Barnstable High School Performing Arts Center. Absolutely improve sound quality. The current system is a failing sound system, can make it difficult for performers to be heard and for audiences to enjoy the performances. A lot of our outside rental events bring in their own equipment as our equipment is not compatible. So upgrading the sound system will improve the quality of the performances and make the BHS Performing Arts Center a more attractive venue for renters. Improve the lighting. Track lighting is a common type of lighting used in performing arts centers because it is versatile and can be used to create a variety of effects. Improve safety. A ripped fire curtain is a safety hazard. Fire curtains are designed to contain fires and prevent them from spreading to other parts of the building. Right now, we've been repairing it, stitching it, and sewing that existing curtain. Increased revenue. The BHS Performing Arts Center is a popular venue for a variety of events, including school performances, concerts, plays, and community events. Repairing and upgrading the Performing Arts Center will make it more attractive to renters, which will increase revenue for the district. And also with the sound system, we're making sure that it's compatible and that we can transmit from there and to there. So there's a lot of upgrades that are needed on this one for Performing Arts Center.
So I have a question, Doug or Sally,
Sure.
about this, or maybe Chris Dwelly. You mentioned revenue, Doug, and I'm just curious, in an average year, how much external revenue comes in through rentals of the Performing Arts Center? Just ballpark.
Chris, I'm not sure if you have that ballpark.
Yeah, it's around $35,000 a year.
I'm
We
sorry,
are
Chris, you're breaking
presently-
up. Chris, say that again, please.
$35,000.
Or for a given year, that's the total revenue
Over-
that you.
yep.
I have a follow-up question. Does the revenue, is it credited to the Performing Arts Center?
Yes, it
we've
goes
got a
into a
dedicated.
revolving fund.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, you just answered it.
Oh, sorry. it goes into a revolving fund, but that revolving fund can barely keep up with a lot of the maintenance and repairs and upkeep to the pack. But I mean, that's why this particular one is to upgrade the seating, be it either replacing seating or reupholstering, upgrading the lighting. It's basically, these are bigger ticket items than just the average everyday wear and tear that the this revolving account covers.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
think
35,
there's, I
sorry,
think
go
there's
ahead,
the
Sarah.
potential, I think there's the potential to bring in more revenue than we currently are. And I would also add that our performing arts department at the high school is really blossoming in terms of the level of performance, whether it's orchestra, chorus, band, the theater arts. There's really some wonderful growth happening with the performing arts department. So it also serves the students of the Barnstable schools. And then I do think we have an opportunity to bring in more revenue than we currently do.
Right, and I think the students are the primary goal for this, but 35,000 sounds kind of low. For example, when the Cape Symphony plays there, do they pay the school anything for that?
We've been in a very long-term lease with the Cape Cod Symphony, and that lease is expiring at the end of June. And so they were paying us under the former lease conditions.
Okay, which were quite low, I suspect. Okay, all right, thank you for that.
Just a follow-on question on from Chris here is, the thought of upgrading the sound system, Sarah, does that allow for a greater charge for the facility for outside organizations to come in because they don't need to upgrade and bring in their own equipment?
We've
Possibly.
done some, yeah, we've done some comparisons. We try to look at this every year. And, I think that we have a pretty, because it's the biggest venue in the area, I do think that we are probably charging a pretty fair rate at this point in time. But if we were to upgrade, we certainly would keep our eyes on marketability and kind of on an annual basis review what our fees are.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, number 5 is the gym floor replacement at Barnstable West Barnstable Elementary School. This project included removing and replacing the existing hardwood gym floor. This would include painting lines. This existing floor is buckling, it's causing tripping hazards. There is excessive wear in multiple locations on this floor. Prior repairs have resolved the problem temporarily. However, the buckling continues. There are several reasons to justify replacing an existing or original to the building greater than 60-year-old gym floor. Safety, a worn-out gym floor can be a safety hazard for athletes and students. Over time, wood floors can develop cracks, splinters, unevenness. This particular floor is at the age where it's old and that it's had so much patching and repairing that as the floor itself all interacts with each other, that's where it's kind of causing a little bit of the buckling and shifting. We've had some roof issues here, which has caused some of the problem with this floor. And the appearance of the new gym floor would improve the appearance of the gym. Maintenance, a new gym floor would be easier to maintain than an old floor. The old wood floors often require frequent sanding and refinishing. This particular one, it's basically from one end of the floor to the other along one side. It's almost like 3 feet from the wall is buckling, but basically, they've worked around it. They've got basically things stored near this buckle. This floor absolutely needs to be replaced. Number 6, mechanical upgrades. This is to all 9 Barnstable Public Schools. This is district-wide boiler and burner and pump upgrades. So think of this as your heating. So all these schools have very old furnaces that are down in their boiler rooms. These mechanical upgrades, such as a variety of frequency drives, the VFDs, which is an electronic device that controls the speed and torque of an electric motor in heating, ventilation. systems or new oil burners and water heaters would be a 15% energy savings. So some of these furnaces and some of these boilers are still steam, and we're looking to convert them over time to all water, and then to upgrade them to be more efficient. Additionally, many of the mechanical systems in our schools are past the typical useful life. These systems consist of large pumps, boilers, water heaters, air handlers, and the general piping system. This CIP would assist with the replacement of some of these systems should there be an unexpected failure. And that's why it's pretty much mentioned for all 9 schools as needed. Number 7A.
Let me,
As we,
can I just ask you about number 6 before you move on?
sure.
It seems like a very low cost to upgrade all the mechanical systems at the 9 schools.
Oh, it's actually not. It's not a one cost, one drop. This is basically each year. So,
Oh, okay.
So it's not showing it here, but it's been 250 per year. I think we had 250 in fiscal year 25. We had 250 in fiscal year 24. And trust me, I think I'm on FY 25. I'm down to like 40,000 left. So we have been using it. It's been upgrading burners. It's upgrading pumps. It's been
right.
But it's, we can't do it all at once, so we're doing it as we can each year. Yeah, and this spreadsheet should have carried it into FY 27 and FY 28.
Right. So you anticipate roughly $250,000 each year going forward.
Correct. And I have the total project cost on this one is 750,000.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, this spreadsheet that was shared with you was basically showing what they are for FY 26, and it was showing that we removed the 4 and we added 3. Like we're talking now 7A, which is an add. This was for HVAC efficiency upgrades. What we've been finding with having the air quality test at a lot of the schools, we've been finding that there are deficiencies in some of these schools, and a lot of these are very costly to bring these schools up to current standards with the existing equipment that they have. So that's what this next 7A is asking, is to upgrade existing HVAC systems with energy efficient components. The existing HVAC equipment is in need of energy efficient upgrades throughout the district. And that's what this is. And it's basically a $350,000 and then a $500,000 total ask. And that's, like I said, to keep up with the deficiencies and repairs with some of this older equipment. Number 8 is again replace the gym floor. Now we're at the Barnstable Intermediate School. I talked about this a little previously. This project includes removing and replacing the existing rubber gym floor to include painting the lines. The existing floor is rubber and worn in many spots, is in need of replacing. The recommendation is not to patch and repair this type of floor. It would be to scour up the floor, grind it down, and then to pour a new rubber floor in that gym. Worn out floor gym can be a safety hazard. We talked about the appearance. A new gym floor would improve the appearance of the gym. This school also does a lot of competitions and has a lot of visitors playing competitions at that school.
Do we use the same contractor to do all the floor replacements in the gyms?
We do for the replacement, and that's a gym floor specialist. But we're not, we're kind of limited to a degree on when it comes to procurement that we have to reach out to other vendors. When we build a new floor or replace the floor, we'll go out to a complete bid.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9, the library carpet remove and replace. Barnstable Intermediate School, back at BIS. This goal of this project is to remove the existing carpet in the BIS library. The carpet will replace with a resilient rubber flooring. There's low maintenance or carpet tile. Some of the state recommendations were a carpet tile with a rubber back. So we're looking into those options. The existing carpet at the school is stained, torn, and peeling in many locations. The carpet needs to be commercially cleaned every year, costing thousands of dollars in maintenance. The following reasons are why it's necessary to replace the carpet at the Barnstable Intermediate School. Is maintenance. The rubber-backed carpet tiles are rubberized, resilient flooring, and is much easier to maintain. Cost savings. The resilient flooring has a longer lifespan than carpet, and it will save the school money in the long run. Carpet tiles can be swapped out as necessary and will continue to absorb the noise levels desired. And by replacing the library carpet, Barnstable Intermediate School can create a more hygienic, durable, and attractive space for students to learn and explore. Number 10, replace and repaint interior doors. This is at the high school. A lot of the doors at the high school have been beaten up, damaged. Some need to be replaced and some need to be repainted. This project includes replacing and repainting interior doors. As I just mentioned, many of the interior doors need to be painted, several need to be replaced due to damage. This would improve safety, performance, maintenance, and cost effectiveness. It would also improve the overall morale of the school community. Number 11. Back to the high school again, mason repair and repointing, Barnstable High School. This project will include repairing and repointing several locations across the high school. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This actually is at the high school, but we're noticing a lot of other buildings across the district will start to need this. So this would improve the appearance and the maintenance and to keep out unwanted moisture and rodents. Number 12, the field house improvements and mechanical, also at the Barnstable High School. The flooring needs to be cleaned and restriped. Windows need attention. I believe the windows may have been on for a CIP before and got rejected. There's some broken windows and some windows that don't open and operate. The interior equipment, the storage room, closet space needs repairs to the ceiling and doors. This is also a fire department request. I personally walked it with the fire department and they had concern with the storage room. Project justification, this would improve safety, performance, appearance, and maintenance, and a cost effectiveness. It would also improve the overall morale of the school community. Number 13, demolition of the old portables. These are the old portable offices. There was one near the culinary, and then there's one down by the facilities office. So that would be the Barnstable Food Service and then the Barnstable Transportation offices. This project will demolish the old portable offices previously occupied by Barnstable Food Services and the second one used by the Barnstable Transportation. These portable offices have been vacant for more than 3 years. They are an eyesore and a breeding ground for mice and other rodents. These are becoming dangerous as access into them continues to be boarded up after breaking and entering occurs. This just happened as recent as I think a week and a half ago with the one closest to the food and service. Demolition of these portable offices would improve appearance at the Barnstable High School and facilities campus. It would also improve the overall morale of the school community. Number 14, exhaust fan replacement and upgrades. This is at the Barnstable High School. This is an ongoing project. This goal of this project will be to continue to replace the existing exhaust fans at BHS. There are a number of compelling reasons why Barnstable High School should replace its belt-driven exhaust fans with new direct drive units. Many of these exhaust fans have failing parts. They're old, rusted, and we've been changing out the belts more often than one should. The direct drive exhaust fans are more efficient, reliable, quieter, and last longer. Direct drive fans do not have any belts or pulleys that can slip or break. Direct drive fans are more efficient, reliable, quiet, and durable than belt-driven fans. They can also help to improve the energy efficiency of the school building and save money on utility bills. And these exhaust fans are necessary to make sure that the air quality is met in the school. 15 of 20, the acoustical ceilings throughout the remainder of the school over at Barnstable United Elementary. This project will replace the remainder of the ceiling tiles throughout the BUE school. Many of the rooms on the first floor and several rooms on the second floor were changed out during the water damage remediation at the end of the summer of 2024. This project would complete the remainder of the ceiling tile replacement. It would improve the appearance of the Barnstable United Elementary. It would also improve the overall morale of the school community. Uh, 16 of 20 is the locker room renovations at Barnstable High School. Renovating the existing Barnstable High School locker rooms. The locker rooms at Barnstable High School are extremely outdated with failing fixtures in the bathrooms and showers, and old rusty lockers that do not appropriately serve the needs of the students. This has a negative impact on the morale of both the staff and the students. Specific reasons would be due to improved cleanliness and hygiene. The old dilapidated locker room can be difficult to keep clean, which can lead to the spread of germs. Renovated locker rooms with new fixtures and finishes will be easier to clean and maintain, which will help to improve the health and well-being of the students and staff. Reduce downtime, provide students with adequate storage space. Many of the existing lockers at the Barnstable High School are too small. They're too small here in the locker room to accommodate the needs of the students. Renovated locker rooms with larger lockers will provide students with the space they need to store their belongings securely. I'm being told currently that a lot of the students will bring their locker or their gear to classrooms. They'll ask a favorite teacher to store their gear in their room. That's not really what we want to be doing. If we had the proper lockers that was sized appropriately, the students and the athletes could lock and leave their gear appropriately. It would boost morale, and the modern locker rooms can have a positive impact on the morale of both staff and students. I'm hoping that this one will be joined with the current existing CIP that's going through to renovate all of the restrooms in the high school. And I think if we combine this with the design package, we could save some money on that one. 17, network infrastructure, replacement and upgrades for the IT, Barnstable Public Schools, that would be across the district. This project will replace and upgrade near end-of-life network switches and equipment across the Barnstable Public School District. The existing network equipment and switches are dated and nearing end of life. They're more than 10 years old. The equipment will soon be difficult to service and may cause network outages and failures. Being ahead of the replacement over the next few years will allow the network to continue to service the district without interruption and save money on emergency replacement alternatives. So I believe this one is spreading it out over 2 or 3 years, actually I think over 5 years, to start changing out, I think 20 to 40 switches per year. Number 18, this is again another infrastructure CIP, which is the security camera upgrades and maintenance. I know a few years ago we did some major upgrades to some of the cameras, but this is to keep us current, keep the equipment current, and then to also add additional cameras where they are necessary, as we've been finding. This project will upgrade existing security cameras across the 9 schools and provide preventative maintenance. Much of the district has received, like I said, newer equipment, but several areas are in need of upgrades and additional cameras added. Example, athletic fields, exits to and from for the portables, some equipment that's also nearing the end of life. And I believe this is also being spread out over 5 years.
Doug, I have a question about line item 18.
Sure.
So the security cameras across 9 schools, where are these, where does the monitoring for all these cameras take place? That's first question. Second question is, are the visuals and the audio, are they recorded? And if so, how long are the recordings retained?
I'm not positive on how long they're retained. I know that in most camera systems, the more outdated camera equipment, it's a 2-week cycle. So it would
Okay.
save it for 2 weeks and then it records over it automatically. Some of the
Okay.
newer equipment that we have that's probably more digital, is probably a lot longer. Each
Mhm.
school, if I'm not mistaken, and I would need, infrastructure to talk more in depth about this, but I think each school retains their recordings and their footage. And
Mhm.
I know that it's on the server, but I know that it can be accessed from the main server, which is based in the high school.
Okay, and who monitors the camera results?
The camera, well, I would imagine it could everybody from between infrastructure, which is cut with Sean Wendell, to the
I
school
can jump in if
principals.
that's helpful.
What's up?
I can jump in if it's helpful. We don't have
Please.
ongoing monitoring of the cameras. There's no capacity for our staff to kind of monitor on an ongoing basis, but we do have the video footage to refer back to if something were to
Right.
occur.
Okay.
And something just came up and it was a 30-day look back that we had, and that was at the high school.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's like we have it available to us for 30 days, and if we need it for something and we need it for longer, we will store it separately.
Okay, so at the high school, for example, Sarah, these cameras are recording a variety of locations,
Yeah,
but these are just going directly to a recording. They're not shown on a screen somewhere that a security person or a police
right,
officer is monitoring.
right, right.
Okay.
There's no ongoing monitoring.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, 19, roof replacement, membrane and shingles at Centerville Elementary School. This project will replace the asphalt shingle roof as well as the membrane roof at Centerville Elementary School. This roof is just about 25 years old and nearing end of life. Both the shingles and the membrane roof have and will continue to need patching due to age. Here are some specific examples. Mold and mildew growth. Mold and mildew growth can cause respiratory problems, allergies, and other health problems. They can also damage the interior of the building, of the school building. That's when water is penetrating inside the building. Electrical hazards. Leaks can cause electrical shorts, which can lead to fires. Water damage, like I just said, leaks can damage ceilings, walls, floors, and other furnishings. This can be costly repair and can disrupt educational activities. And structural damage. Leaks can damage the structural integrity of the building, which can be dangerous and expensive to repair. And on this one, I can say the top 3 of these, when we had that heavy rain that would happen a couple of days in a row, we had to set out a roofer for almost all of these. We had some electrical hazards, we had some water damage. There's an area where the rubber membrane meets the asphalt shingles and it was coming apart. We had that repaired. But yes, 3 times we've had a roofer out there in the last 2 months. Again, moving on with that is the replace the membrane roof. This is 20 of 20. This is at Barnstable, West Barnstable Elementary School. This school received a new roof. This school did not receive a new roof on top of the gym. So this project intends to replace the white membrane roof over the gymnasium and the cafeteria sections of BWB. This membrane roof will be replaced with an asphalt shingle. This is a pitched roof, if you guys recall, and you're familiar with that gym roof. There are many leaks in the existing membrane roof. The membrane roof is extremely slippery, making repairs more difficult. During the winter months, when there is snow or ice buildup on the roof, we have to close the daycare entrance at BWB. This is because the snow will slide off the roof, creating a large pile in front of the door. The daycare entrance is closed out of caution. The roof is causing many of the problems with the gym floor, as I mentioned earlier. So that is the last CIP right now that we have submitted. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I applaud you guys. With the facilities, with the heavy use, your maintenance, your upgrades, and your replacements, you have managed to increase your request by basically $1 million over last year. I think that's incredible.
Well, I hope that's a good thing.
It's a wonderful thing. You know, back in the old days when you didn't have a proper deferred maintenance plan, you'd wait until the HVAC basically broke down or the heating system broke down. I'm sure you remember that, or when the roof collapsed. But this is wonderful. I mean, I applaud you for this because it's a systematic way of keeping everything moving and functional. Congratulations.
Well,
And
thank
it's,
you.
yeah, and it's forward looking too. You're not just patching things. You're addressing problems before they get to be real problems, which is great. I have a question. All of this work is pretty serious work. What does all of this work get done during the summer when schools are not in session?
Some of the major projects, that would be the ideal scenario, but a lot of these projects will have to take place during the school year. As you know, it's basically you've got to prioritize the projects. You've got to, you know, it all depends on when we have the funding, when we have the drawings. Obviously, like take for instance, if we were to do the locker rooms, we might not get to both locker rooms over the summer. Might have to do one locker room the first summer and then the second locker room either over
Right.
Christmas break or at the, you know, it's all, you know, project management, time management, and finding out what you can put in. I mean, idealistically, yes, it'd be great to do all of these or a good large chunk of these over the summer break, but
Right.
I think you got to divide and conquer and prioritize
Right.
what's important. So,
And you have to balance with the needs of the students when schools are in session.
correct. And we take advantage of it. Like we just did over the Christmas break. We took care of a couple big projects over Christmas break. We're also replacing the chiller at the night hall right now. So that started over Christmas break. It'll continue again at February break. And then we'll finalize it and drop the new chiller on the roof over April break.
Okay. All right.
So
Thank you. This is not something I know anything about, but that was a question that I had. Thank you for that.
I
welcome.
apologize. I have some comment and question. I mean, first off, Doug, Sarah, Chris, great job. Thank you for the information. On the MSBA, is there a dollar limit that allows you to put in an application? Or can you put in an application for any amount of money?
I think it's pretty open-ended. I'm not aware of any dollar limit, but we would want to put something that's a higher ticket price in order to see if they would help support it. We also need to be mindful of kind of future thoughts and future ideas we have about the buildings. And so we don't want to ask the MSBA for money for a building that might be replaced, for example. And so, you know, kind of prioritizing the project at the high school in particular is really where we're leaning because of its dollar value, but there's no max.
Okay, and that was a second comment is, would the MSBA be involved with or take an application for a rebuild for a new school?
They do. They've got two different programs. One is called accelerated repair, which is something like the roof at the high school. They also do new projects or major renovations, and that's called the core program. And both of them require school districts to put in a statement of interest, which happens at this time of year. They're due in March and April. And they do also support new construction.
Okay. And then lastly, a real quick one is great spreadsheet. I like spreadsheets. You can always look at things in different ways. Right now, you have it looking at it from a school location standpoint. I might suggest to look at it from different categories, like all roof repairs, all gym floor repairs, all HVAC repairs, regardless of school, to kind of get a feel for concentrating the efforts into a specific area, not only from a financial standpoint, but also from a project standpoint. That's all. That's just a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Tom Keene. I have a few comments and questions. I guess the first is, it seems clear to me that the spreadsheet here, we didn't only spend $1,350,000 in FY25, right? So data's missing from here. And I assume that that's also the case for 27 through 30. Is it, at this point, are you looking forward in terms of what you think your spending is going to be through those years?
Yes, I mean, like I said earlier, I apologize. This particular spreadsheet is not all of the full. It was basically to show that we were moving, 4 CIPs and where we were adding the 3. There is a forecast, and I believe when we do a lot of these CIPs, we have to forecast it out 5 years. On most of these, there's a 5-year forecast. In FY25, there are sizable amounts of projects. I mean, you must have gone through them last year, but there's everything from elevator installations and repairs, playground safety equipment. We're going to be putting in a new paging system across the entire district. I'm hoping to have that going in the summer. There's door replacement project that's across all the elementary schools. There's, parking lot paving projects at High West and Bickus. FY25 has some sizable money that was allocated towards a lot of projects that hopefully we'll be able to.
I just think from our perspective, evaluating this, it would be helpful to have it all filled in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second is on the roof replacement. If the building authority says no, are we really going to spend 13.7 million on our own? I mean, that'll blow any budget out of the water.
It's a good question, but it's not a matter of the roof just can't be ignored. So
I guess I'm asking other intermediate steps.
Right, and I believe, and as Sarah mentioned, I mean, we're looking at other options. There's also you guys had mentioned the microgrid grant. There's also other probably grants out there. There's also being more energy efficient on roofs. So there's new materials that are coming out that are different than just a rubberized roof. So there's other opportunities out there, and I think we'll definitely look into them all.
Okay.
I mean, you're absolutely right. That's a very large number, but it's a very large school. It's the largest building on Cape Cod.
Well, you haven't seen my house.
Well, from the view behind you, it looks great.
Thank you. No, it's not my house. And the kind of last question is, I'm trying to get a sense of what's the most important and what's the least important. And I assume that this is not rank ordered that way. But some of the items, quite frankly, you sort of justify as they would improve school morale, which is nice, but it's not the same as like health and safety type of concerns. Have you all gone through and prioritized what must be done versus what would be nice to have done?
I think some of the must would be the HVAC and air quality, as we've been learning, and we got a quick education, especially from BUE. And then now that we've had the state looking at all air quality at all the schools, so HVAC, air quality, a lot of those things would come to the top of the list. Heating, mechanical upgrades, just as important. If I had to pick a gym floor that absolutely had to be done, it would be BWB. You know, I mean, there's a wide range of what absolutely has to be done. But first and foremost, it would be air quality and heating and ventilating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I asked this question not to say that these aren't important, but my guess is there's probably other things that aren't on this list that you would have liked to do too. And I'm just trying to figure out why did the list, why were these things making it to the list and other projects dropped off? And is everything here critical, or is there some that if funds were constrained that you would be able to drop off or shift off to the future?
I would, well, you know, from the facilities assessment report that we had Collier do for us, there's, I would say, 40 to 60 items on there. It's close to, you know, $80 million worth of suggested work. But out of those, and back to the question previously of time management, it's basically project management and project priority management. And that's why a lot of these came up front for this year, because these were deemed to be appropriate and needed and necessary now. And then other projects were put into the list of like, okay, we can do that next year, or we can do that in FY28 or FY29. They're not removed from the list. And if we showed you the whole list, I mean, they kind of just pushed back down to the we'll get to those at the bottom of the list, not the bottom of the second half, or the lower half of this list. And we would bring them up as priority requires.
All right. Well, and I guess when you fill out this spreadsheet, we would then be able to see all that.
Right. Yep.
Thank you.
So Doug and Sarah, the 2026 items, these were all presented or will be presented to or introduced into the town's CIP process, correct? So Doug, what you just went through, most of these, you probably used the notes that you had when you participated in the CIP meeting last week.
Correct. And these, well, actually there were 21. Like I said, we removed 4, and then we added these 3. That's what this list was sent to that task force. And that was, you know, as they're all voting and as that task force and that committee is looking through these, it was basically a refresh before everybody voted.
Right. And so, Tom, in partial answer to your question, this is what the school department asked or put in for within the CIP process, which is across all town departments. And then these will get ranked by the various people in CIP. So the school department won't get everything that they ask for, but they'll hopefully get the higher priority items.
Okay.
I have a question, Doug.
Sure.
You had indicated that going forward, we're looking at about $80 million of CIP projects for the schools. Are there some big items that will appear in future years? You know, like the 13.7, but there must be some bigger ones also.
No, I think a lot of the big ones are HVAC to each school, heating systems, windows, roofs. I mean, those are your big ticket items, but I think we've also been learning that there are grants and outside funding for some of those.
Yeah.
So we're looking into those. And again, that's also probably why they got pushed. But flooring is going to be another big one that's going to come up, because the schools are all in need of, you know, to be updated on all their flooring. Everything from the classrooms to the hallways. I mean, that's going to start popping up probably in the next couple of years, if not next year. But it's just the maintenance and upkeep. And when you say big ticket items, it would be roof, windows, doors, masonry. Like I said, I mentioned the high school needing to be repointed, but BUE, that half of that problem over there is that building is the newest school we have, but now it's time to clean up the outside of the building and to repoint the masonry, clean up the weep holes, make sure the drainage is acting properly, maybe replace some gutters, install more gutters, interior drains, things of that nature.
Thank you. Well, this is very informative, Doug. Thank you for all the detailed discussion. Sarah,
welcome.
Sarah, how else do you guys want to spend time on the December 4th vision for the future presentation? Did you plan to go through that with us today? And or do you think it's necessary?
We certainly can go through it with you. We also did an update on last Wednesday's school committee meeting based on questions that the committee had at that time, but we could certainly go through that presentation if you like.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was on our agenda.
Sure.
Mark Milna, maybe you would have an opinion. We're an hour into this, into our meeting. Do you think Mark Milna would be helpful for them to go through this presentation for us? Or would it be better perhaps for Sarah and team to talk about the updates that were done in response to people's questions?
Yeah, I put this on the agenda at the request of a committee member at the last meeting who had identified the December 4th presentations to the school committee, and I thought it would be a good idea to have this on this meetings. But however, perhaps probably better off if Sarah could just share, what was presented or talked about at the last school committee meeting based on the questions that they received.
I think that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So that everybody has the same kind of background information, the facilities subcommittee's been looking at long-term, long-term solutions to some of the challenges we face with our aging facilities. Primarily focused on our K-3 schools, which are our oldest schools that need the most upkeep and maintenance. And so that first presentation, December 4th, talked about really thinking forward and thinking ahead regarding where we foresee the population changing and shifting and moving, and how we might best be able to leverage state dollars to support the educational environments. And so knowing that the population is continuing to concentrate in the Hyannis area, and we have several aging facilities in Hyannis with Hyannis West and BCIS, the facility subcommittee posed the idea and had some financial rationale to propose a consolidated building of new construction in the Hyannis area to have a relatively large 650 student K-3 school. If we were to apply to MSBA, that's probably a 7 to 10 year project. The idea being that if we were to proceed in this direction, the state would help support the new facility with something like a 50% reimbursement. And by doing so, that would also help us to prioritize a very long list of capital projects that we've been talking about with the facilities conditions assessment. Because if BCIS and High West were to go into a new project, we would then really focusing on the emergencies and the things that are must-dos at Hyannis West and BCIS, help prioritize there for the long term. So that was the December 4th meeting, and it was kind of difficult for the facility subcommittee to lock in on BCIS and High West. It could have been a consolidation with High West and Centerville, for example. We thought that BWB would probably be best left alone in the northern part of town. We would need kind of a school in that geographic location. And so we presented that to the school committee on December 4th, and they asked a number of questions. So at this past meeting for January 8th, one of the questions that was asked was, we still have 7 other schools and millions of dollars of other priorities. So how might we possibly consider and conceive of this idea when we have so much that we have to attend to? And certainly the new construction would require some additional borrowing through debt exclusion. And how much could the community possibly withstand when you have so much capital needs? And so the presentation that happened on January 8th, if we fast forward, kind of addresses that in terms of a strategy that the school department hasn't been using in order to fund major projects in terms of debt drop off, but is a common practice for the town and other districts. So I'll start from there and share if you want the Wednesday presentation. And Chris, I'm going to invite you to chime in if you don't mind.
Sure.
And there we go.
And this was a presentation to the school committee.
Yes, we presented this on the 8th of January.
So what we wanted to do is we wanted to show what the estimated cost of construction would be for a consolidated facility. So we worked with Collier's Engineering, who estimated based on the square footage for the size, it would be about $43.6 million in construction costs after the MSBA reimbursement. So we mapped that out using a 20-year debt exclusion, and just wanted to illustrate how those debt payments would look over that 20-year note. One of the questions that came from this was, and the larger study that Sarah mentioned earlier, is how do we tackle all of the capital facility needs that we have, given the cost? So we wanted to show to them was how we could potentially leverage debt drop-off to help continuously work on some of our larger, more costlier projects. So the next slide, we've done that. So we added 2 additional projects here. Sarah, in a few future slides, will go into detail about what these projects are. But in year 11, we added a $22 million project. And then at year 22, we added a $50 million project. And again, just wanted to show what the debt payment would look like over those time periods. So we've got a total of 40 years here for those 3 projects. And then next slide, Sarah. One of the things that we wanted to talk about that we're cognizant of is having a large spike to property tax bills in any one year. So we highlighted the 2 areas where we added new projects, Project 2 and Project 3 at year 11 and year 22, to show how when you add those projects, it spikes or increases the overall cost. And in the next slide, we've applied some of our savings to help reduce those spikes in any one year, to help flatten out or smooth out what the annual year-over-year tax increase would be if we move forward with these projects. So the next slide details the actual numbers on these. So we've illustrated a little over $115 million new building construction. And for the taxpayer whose home is assessed at $750,000, which is the average in Barnstable in this fiscal year, the average property tax increase would be $114 a year. The highest in the illustration that we just showed, highest increase in 1 year would be 127, and the lowest would be $97. So variation of $30 in any 1 year, which is relatively smooth, generally speaking. And then our average total cost for a taxpayer whose home is assessed at $750,000, if we move forward with these projects as we've shown, would be a total of $4,500. And the next slide gives a little bit more detail into what these projects would be that Sarah can describe for you.
So thanks, Chris. So a key bullet in that last slide was about addressing buildings of highest need. And I think it provides an additional avenue to really support those big areas of need. So project one in this sort of roadmap, and this is a really high level view, not necessarily exactly how it would play out, but it's just it's an example and a potentially realistic example. New construction for a consolidated elementary school with BCIS and Hyannis West to go through MSBA and get state support in addition to local funding. And then in 10 years, knowing that Centerville and BWB are also aging and have some pretty significant needs, do renovations for BWB and Centerville. And then in 20 years, leverage that higher amount towards renovating our newer schools, which won't be so new in 20 years, to do some more major renovations at BUE, BIS, and BHS. So again, hypothetical roadmap to kind of stagger some major investments while we continue to chip away at what we know are some maintenance needs right now as well. But this sort of allows priorities to then fall into place because we do have a really big portfolio and a lot of needs for capital across all 9 of our schools.
Okay. Thank you. I have a
there.
question. Chris referenced savings. I think on the prior slide, it was 8.9 million. That's savings from renovations or repairs that you don't need to do. Chris, is that the idea?
That was just using a portion of the school department's savings balance if we wanted to kind of help smooth out, both the annual increase as well as the overall project cost. So that's where the savings would come from the school department's free cash, essentially.
Okay, but what's this? What are you saving on precisely?
It's just an accrued balance that we currently have of savings available to us for capital projects or emergency expenses that might come up.
Okay, so that's a balance sheet number.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But I think to your question, we did ask Colliers to reprioritize from the conditions assessment list that they came up with, what would then kind of come off of the list of needs. And they put together this slide. The first column is kind of the total liability of the facilities conditions report, which is over 131 million at this point because of inflation. If BCIS and Hyannis West were prioritized, that's going to knock down what those facilities projects would be for those buildings, because over the next 7 years or so, we would just focus on things that are really emergent versus long-term solutions. So that's the second column. And then the third column, we've been talking with the school committee, and Colliers has been helping us to be thinking about the BHS roof as well as the BIS roof. If we were to do 2 roofing projects through MSBA, that knocks down that facilities conditions list even further. And then step 3, if we're then going to renovate BWB in Centerville and take some of those repairs off the list because we know that we're going to do a major renovation, that knocks down that total kind of maintenance liability even further. So this is how we could help prioritize the monies going forward.
Okay, thank you.
I can
You're
just ask
welcome.
a couple of questions. I notice West Villages hasn't been talked about at all. Does that not have as many needs or not pressing needs that you anticipate?
It has fewer needs, but it certainly does have some, and Doug can perhaps talk about it a little bit further. The ones that I am familiar with are HVAC. I think that similar to BUE, it was constructed around the same time. And so I think that there's some HVAC needs to be paid attention to at West Villages, but it is one of our newer K-3 schools. And so it's in a different, I think, generation of buildings than the other four. Doug, do you want to add anything to that?
Just that we've been staying on top of a lot of the needs and maintenance of that building. And you're right, it's not, we don't see it as, sorry, we don't see it as a like you see, you know, BWB in Centerville. It's not, it doesn't need a major renovation. It just got all brand new flooring this past summer. And all the classrooms, we removed the carpets. I mean, it's a school that we don't, I don't, you know, we're staying on top of it. It's not a major reno.
But in
Okay.
fairness, we may want to lump it in with the BUE BIS
True,
Project 3, because it's roughly the same generation as
Right.
as those two buildings.
Okay, just curious. And also, and you might answer this later on, where would this proposed consolidated school go? Would it be on one of the existing sites or a different site?
It's really TBD. It's possible that it goes on an existing site. My understanding is that there's some space at High West. If we were to put in a statement of interest and then be accepted, there would be a pretty much more intensive feasibility study that's done in collaboration with the state to make more of those determinations.
Okay, but you anticipate a debt override in this calendar year if this is going to move forward? Or would that be down the line?
It would be next calendar year.
Okay. But the decision to be made this calendar year that the consolidation will happen.
The decision to be made this year would be to put in an application,
Okay.
which does not bind us as a district further going forward. But many times, districts don't get accepted when they put in the application for the first time or perhaps even the second time. And so, so it's sort of getting your name in the queue with all of the competition who's also looking for new buildings. But it doesn't commit us or bind us.
Okay, so you're just seeing this as kind of like you're gonna try it and it might be next year, it might be the year after. Is it just kind of getting in the queue? Is that kind of the plan?
That's the idea, but we do have to have kind of a concept to be putting forward to the state to propose.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And Chris Dwelly referenced, I think, or Sarah, you referenced for one in one of the earlier slides, 43.6 million in spending after MSBA reimbursement. What is the assumption for MSBA reimbursement in percentage terms? 40%, 60%?
I've used 50%. It's close to what the districts around us have received recently.
Okay.
I think it's in line with our demographics, which is a component of the review process. So I used 50. The DY school I think received 58% at the end of it.
And we estimated it based on some square footage construction information that we got from Colliers.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Just a general question, Sarah and Chris, because I don't know, but what are your thoughts, or what are the thoughts on the community growth and the school age growth during this time?
That's a great question. So we did a demographic report 2 years ago now, which basically showed that our population forecast, school age population forecast over the next 10 years would remain relatively flat.
Mhm.
And so that was the projection at the time. If we were to be invited into the MSBA, they then do their own demographic forecast. And I don't have anything further out than 10 years.
But you're saying that it's flat. The school-age children growth is flat, but it is changing geographically within Barnstable.
Yeah, so talking with the planning department, what I know that they're sort of forecasting out in terms of population trends is kind of growth in the Hyannis and Centerville area.
And can I add on to that and ask, one of the things we've talked about in past meetings and reports is the mix of kids between kind of special needs and second language kids. Is that makeup expected to change much for the flat overall population?
I don't have exact forecasts with respect to the detail of the demographics related to special education and our ELs. We did see an increase in multilingual learners again this year, but I think that the rate of change has slowed down a little bit in terms of the percent increase. It's not quite as steep as it had been maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And in terms of special needs students, it's increasing a little bit. I think the big difference is that the intensity of the needs has probably been the bigger increase that we've seen and are adapting to, especially when we talk about our facilities and spaces. But I don't have a crystal ball or huge forecasts that get that specific.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question about the MSBA application. When we apply for it for reimbursement, will you be pursuing the debt exclusion also at the same time?
No, that wouldn't happen until after getting accepted, and then there's much more involvement with the feasibility study, and would come months after, including more community engagement. Chris, do you have? I couldn't tell if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, it's just the debt exclusion for the construction cost is quite a ways out, even from when you get accepted. You know, sometimes communities will go out for debt exclusion for the feasibility and the initial design, but there's a long process, as Sarah has alluded to. Once you've been selected, the MSBA comes in, reviews. There's community engagement. Final decisions are made. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So there's quite a large lead up before any debt exclusion vote, goes before the town council for a vote, and then to the town for a ballot vote.
Well, as you know, the CWMP is going to be, we'll have to have a debt exclusion at some point as well. So, going to the citizens for a vote twice is going to be tricky.
Yeah, it could be.
Oh, very tricky.
Be.
We haven't done well in the past. I think the last one we did was the regional tech school.
Mm-hmm.
I think at some time, this is a discussion that needs to be happening with our community, because the work that the school department has done in presenting their case, especially with the facilities condition report, it's significant work and significant activities that have to be accomplished. And I think that we might also want to consider the importance of transparency. And really, to me, the basic emphasis is on this significant infrastructure costs of, I think what the number is, $132 million. And the school's looking at a different approach, which is to build two new schools, or have a 40-year project in school building, which I think is the right approach to take. But I think one of the things that needs to be amplified is that the major driving factor of this is just the cost of repairs and the maintenance of all these facilities. And I think that transparency for the community into why what the motivation is to go after potential new schools and major construction is really to mitigate these circumstances. And one way or another, we're going to be spending $131 million, whether it's through debt exclusions or just in normal maintenance activities. But it's something that needs to be addressed. And I applaud Sarah and her team for what they put together here and trying to identify to us as early as possible, because there has to be other people in the room besides CWMP. There just has to be, we have to let more people in. And this is an excellent approach, an attempt at justifying the needs to the community and to the students. And without attention, it's going to get worse.
Thank you.
I think the other thing too, looking at MSBA, is the issue of if the community says no, I believe they do not look favorably upon approving new projects after that, as they have gone forward. So I think that idea of selling the project is really important. I guess the other question too is looking at, certainly with climate, we know it's getting hotter, and HVAC does include HVAC, but does it include air conditioning? Because we know, like, we've had heat days 3 years ago at the high school, and the impacts when it comes to climate, how much are they calculated within some of these? And are there some costs that you expect might be added in the future?
That's a great question. I think that, certainly new building and new construction or renovations would address many climate components and especially address some energy efficiency. We're definitely seeing green schools being built, schools that are running much more efficiently, much less costly to run, much less costly to maintain, better for the environment. And I think that, ideally we would be able to do more in terms of climate control across our schools. But some of the projects that are coming forward are some basics, because of where we're at. Doug, I don't know if you want to jump in and add anything to that.
No, I think you've nailed it definitely, and also keeping in mind that I think the two schools that we kind of looked at, Highness West and Bickus, I mean, those face the biggest challenges to upgrade them HVAC wise, to upgrade them electronic wise, student, interaction and some of the new technologies that are out there. I mean, those are schools that are just, it's going to be more expensive to bring those forward, with everything that we would like to do with them. And you're absolutely right. The HVAC alone, a couple of these schools is going to be very difficult to bring into that AC, as you guys all talk about, and to get the right climate control.
Has any of these projects, or even from the new building, is there any thought behind the approach to increasing enrollment? Is there an effect that by doing certain repairs or maintenance activities or building of new schools, wouldn't that drive enrollment in our communities? And even if you looked at even expanding the opportunities, maybe even including Chapter 70 type activities or curriculums within the schools, would that bring back students that we are losing or gain enrollments in other areas that we may not have considered?
Yeah, I think potentially, but I don't think that the numbers would be huge. And I say this because in the region, districts are just seeing such a decrease in students that, and I think that's continued to be forecasted, that we're just going to continue to see a decrease in the whole region of children and families. So maybe small numbers, but I don't really see it being big, just in the way the population graphs are looking.
From what I understand of it, it's a demographic collapse. You just don't have as many kids being born as used to be born.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Well, this is an excellent discussion. And I much appreciate my colleagues' questions. Is there anything else we want to cover, Sarah? I would ask that you or Chris provide this January 8th slide deck to Mark for circulation to the committee. But are there any other comments or questions for Sarah and her team?
I just have one quick, going back to the high school gym. Would you ever consider doing bleachers and stuff over again? I spent a lot of time there this winter, and those could also be done with the floor. Doug, had you thought about that?
Bleachers?
Yeah, the bleachers in the high school gym.
Yeah, actually, we are looking at them. We're having some difficulties with them, so we are looking at them. It's become a new project to look more into. So yes, I'm with you on that one.
Sorry.
It's great question. All right. Well, if there are no more questions from the committee or from Mark Milna, I'd like to thank Sarah and her team for coming and for spending 90 minutes of their Monday night with us. So thank you very much, Sarah, Chris, Doug.
Oh, you're welcome.
For your
Thank you
time.
all for
Thank you
spending
all.
90
Thank
minutes
you.
of your time with us. We appreciate it.
And
Good
if we have follow-up questions, we'll funnel them to you through Mark Milna.
That sounds great. And I'll send those presentations over to Mark and he can
Thank
distribute
you.
them out.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Sarah. Thank Chris.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Doug.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Sarah,
Have a good night.
Thanks, y'all.
I just found the presentation. Chris sent it to me, so I'm all set.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Happy
Doug.
New
Thanks,
Year.
Chris. Yep,
Have a good night,
bye-bye.
everyone.
Good night.
Night.
All right. So moving right along, Mark, you circulated a spreadsheet, capital trust fund projections. Do we want to spend a few minutes on that, going over those numbers with us?
Sure. So, yeah, I shared that spreadsheet with the committee, similar to what we've done in past years. It's just to give you some background on what we're projecting for the capital trust fund's capacity to absorb new projects. And we break the projects down between what we plan on financing with cash and what we plan on financing with debt. And the latest projection is similar to what you've seen in the past. We are projecting that we have the capacity within this trust fund to finance about another $15 million a year in new borrowing authorizations for various projects. And we have committed to anywhere from $7 to $9.5 million annually over the next 10-year period for cash funded projects. And the two big ones there are our public roads maintenance program. We allocate a sum of money every year to maintain our public road infrastructure. And the second one being the commitment that we've made from this fund to help augment the financing of our comprehensive wastewater management plan. We've accumulated additional general fund resources and directed them to the capital side of our budget over the past few years through some of the increased growth that we've seen in our local revenues, as well as state aid. And so that's allowed us to allocate more general fund resources to the capital side of the budget. And we included in that increased allocation to capital, we've made a commitment to take about $750,000 of new property tax growth over a 5-year period, FY25 being a third of that 5-year period, to bring that general fund contribution up to a grand total of $5,750,000 on an annual basis. So we've tried to allocate more resources to the capital side of the budget over the past few years. We continue to plan on increasing that commitment. But still, we're far short of having all the resources needed to fund everything that has been submitted for the next 5 years. And if you look back at the email that Gareth provided to everyone, I think it was around December 10th, he sent that email out. It gave you the entire list of all the capital submissions from every department for the next 5 years, FY26 through FY30. And that included $66 million for the school department. So that list you saw tonight, they were just focusing on their 26 requests. But
Right.
we do have requests for 27, 28, 29, and 30. And those are all in that larger spreadsheet that Gareth provided everybody. But again, we're far short of having all the funding sources to be able to provide for funding for every single request. However, it's important on an annual basis that we identify the need, and that's the purpose for building a 5-year plan, is so that you can at least identify your need. So when opportunities come up for you to find more resources, whether it's an additional growth in revenues at the local level that you weren't planning on, or grant opportunities like the MSBA we talked about tonight, and other grant opportunities, you got to have your need identified so that you can submit your applications for those grants. But having limited resources, it comes down to several things that we have to take into consideration when prioritizing what are we going to fund. And that is, what's our capacity to manage the implementation of these projects? What's on project managers' list already that they're overseeing? Can they absorb any more projects, or should we wait and let them finish some of the existing projects before we give them another round of funding? What's our funding availability? Okay, 15 million in new borrowing authorizations, and I'm just talking about the general fund here, not the enterprise funds. Projects that present an immediate public health or safety concern, we have prioritized those right up to the top, because obviously you have to do those. You can't ignore those. Projects that are ready to move forward. People may submit a 26 project request, but are they really ready to move forward on that if we provide the funding? So we have to flush that out. And then other ones that become priorities are we under some kind of regulatory requirement, or do we have some kind of new legal requirement that makes providing funding for that project really non-discretionary? And for example, we're under really new regulations for our coastal estuaries, which require us to move forward with a comprehensive wastewater management plan. So those kind of rise to the top, which is why we've created a strategy to provide more resources to fund the implementation of that program. And so that's really what it comes down to. Very similar to what you've seen in past years. We have a limited capacity to fund all these requests. So, we try to prioritize them based on those criteria that I just described, and some others. And so, at those levels, we can implement, another, well over $100 million in funding for the next 5 years or 10 years. But it's still far short of I think in excess of 600 million that's been identified. But that's between general fund and all our enterprise funds. A couple of comments on the enterprise funds. Most enterprise funds provide their own funding for their capital program. They charge rates, fees for services to provide the funding to finance those capital items. With the exception really of the Highness Youth and Community Center. That's really the only enterprise fund that requires the general fund to support their capital program, because they can't generate the revenue that they need to provide for the capital investments that we're making over in that facility. So that one receives a subsidy from the general fund.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Questions.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I said I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on that projection that I provided.
Well, I'm wondering. I wasn't able to attend the CIP meeting a couple of Mondays ago. Was it? I think Jim and Jeremy attended those. I'd be curious to get any general comments that you folks had from at least the first round of CIP decision making.
You're muted, Jim.
I'm sorry. This is my second time in, and like the first time, I was just extremely impressed by the competency of the staff and their presentations, and were all very well put. The needs were identified. The question, as Mark so nicely put, was, do we just don't have the funds to pay for everything? And you know, CWMP takes most of the oxygen out of the room. That's my personal opinion. I mean, it's such a big need. Between that and DPW's other requirements, that takes almost 60% of the forecasted expenditures. And between that and the school, not much of our community, now I'm going to get into a personal level, it seems to be able to be addressed. So funds for the arts, you know, there's a couple of buildings on Pearl Street that are apparently an annual discussion. You know, should we keep the asset or sell it? You know, those are, and they were $500,000 projects. But you know, I can't say enough about the process. I was sitting in the room. You can feel the competency by the department heads that present their needs. And it's just going to be a question of whether or not we can afford to, or what level, not whether or not, at what level we can afford to spend it.
Right. Right.
So
thank you for that. Jeremy, any comments? This was your first CIP meeting, I believe.
Oh, it was an excellent day. We got there at 8:30 and we were out around 3. So it was a lot of conversation. There was a lot of questions, and it was interesting just watching the relationship between departments and just really, I'd say, the institutional knowledge we have in the town of these department heads that have been here. They know these places, they know these projects so well. And certainly one project that came up a lot is looking at accessibility in the town of how do we make safer intersections, sidewalks, and certainly one question that we had was looking at when it comes to sidewalks with these sewer projects. It doesn't seem like they are currently built into the project, and thinking how can maybe those processes match up a bit better to budget for sidewalks and in thinking about the people involved in this. And I think there's another point that was raised too, when it comes to buildings that are within the flood zone, there's only so much a number that can be put into those buildings before it reaches guidelines that the state is going to step in. And I think that's maybe for me as a younger person looking ahead at these projects of wondering where some of those harder conversations need to come of like the sea level is rising. Where are, some of these remediations? Are we going to not look at a bathhouse that's right now by the water that it might have to get moved? And I think some of these projects, they're really just trying to be most cost effective, but is being the most cost effective necessarily the long-term strategy for this? And it was acknowledged that no, it wasn't. But once again, the common theme is we don't have enough money to do all of these things. And I think that's where we as a town have such a hard position to be in, as we have a massive town with huge municipal resources, and a changing world and environment is going to strain those immensely. And it's the conversation, I think, how do we engage the community in this? With any financial project, we have to sell it to the town, and we have to say that this is going to be really worth the money. So I was sitting there thinking, like, these are all amazing, but how do we get a community that, frankly, coming from Sandwich, where the engagement with financial processes, I think, was greater. There's more newspaper coverage. of how do we get this community to really see these projects and understand the vast resources we have, which is amazing to celebrate, but also to recognize that we have a duty to protect them and maintain what we have to keep our quality of life here.
Those are very good comments. Jeremy and Jim, were you guys in the room or did you attend by Zoom?
We were in the room.
Yeah, we were there. The sandwiches at lunch were excellent.
That was worth it. And that made it worth it.
Definitely.
Good.
Well,
Good.
I attended it by Zoom, and this was my second time to attend the CIP workshop. I continue to be favorably impressed by the high level and thorough discussions of the project details that were provided to us. And so I think what happens for us on CFAC, it gives us invaluable insights and perspectives as we begin to assess our own work of the CIP submission.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So I think this kind of leads us into um, items 4C on the agenda, which is establishing the subcommittees for each of the capital budget and operating budget reports. And according to my notes, 4 of the 8 of us have raised their hands to express their preferences. Sproul and Shea have volunteered for the CIP, and King and Wu have voted their preference for the operating budget committee. So that leaves 4 of us to pick. So maybe I'd go in alphabetical order. Tom Keen, do you have a preference as to which of the 2 subcommittees you want to?
I think operating.
Operating. Okay. Keen for operating. How about Chris Lozon?
I guess I'll stick with operating budget. That's what I've done past couple times.
Okay. All right. Then that leaves our esteemed vice chair, Mr. McKenzie. And Chuck, in historically speaking, you and Lillian have both been sort of floaters on one committee or the other. Are you willing to sort of raise your hand at this point to dedicate time to the CIP report? Because we've got 4 people on the operating budget committee report now. So could I enlist you on CIP?
Yes, I'll do whatever, wherever it can be used.
Right. Okay. And then Lillian, maybe you can give me some advice for as the chair. In the past, you've been a floater too, so I would envision that I would probably contribute to both as needed. Is that fair, given what you've done in the past?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm sort of on both. Historically, I've focused on CIP, so I'm interested to get a closer window into the operating budget process. So I will, but I'll commit to work on both. All right. So we've got these. We've got the 2 subcommittees set up. And then I think what we'll need to do, Mark, with your guidance, is set up a time, a calendar of meetings, first for CIP to lead to when the deadline is to produce a report. And then we'll need to have a calendar for the operating budget as well. Can you assist with the scheduling for these, Mark? You're muted, Mark.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can. I will, I'll look at the due dates for your reports and work backwards from there. And depending upon what your committee would like to do, if it's a weekly meeting, bi-weekly meeting, we can put that together and I can set all those meetings up online.
Right. In the past, we've done these meetings all on Zoom, and they have to be noticed, right? Because the open meeting law requires it.
That's
So,
correct. And we have to have a quorum of the subcommittee. So
right,
if you have 4 people or 5 people, Hector, if you're serving on both, then
right.
we're gonna need at least 3 people to attend in order to meet.
Okay. 3 out of 4. 2 doesn't cut it.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. All right. So that puts pressure on me to be available for both sets of committees. So Mark, can you draw up draft schedules for each of the 2 committees and then circulate them? And what's Mark, what would you suggest in terms of selecting a chair for each committee? Last year I was chair of CIP, but I don't remember frankly how I got to be chair. Did I raise my hand or but
I think you
maybe
missed the first meeting, so you were assigned.
so
No, I,
Neil
I,
was
I
chair
don't
last
recall. I think it was just a voluntary basis.
yeah.
It's always by default.
time.
I was hoping Chuck would be on operating again because then he could be the chair.
No,
Look at him shaking his
he's
head.
nodding his head no. So maybe Jim Sproul, since you have a lot of history with CFAC, maybe you could consider being chair of the CIP subcommittee.
It's fine. We'll talk about it when we're together as a group with the committees.
Okay. But I think you'd be a logical person. And then on the operating budget, we'll do the same process. You all can talk about it when you in your first meeting.
Exactly.
Is there
Okay,
a
good.
preference?
If you're gonna be a floater, if you guys are gonna be floaters, why would we have a quorum? Why would we have a committee of 4? Why wouldn't it be a committee of 3? And therefore, we'd only need 2 for a quorum.
That's a
Well,
question for Mark.
isn't Hector a official member of the CIP committee?
I thought you said you were gonna be a quorum,
Yeah.
a
So,
floater, I'm sorry.
As a floater, I guess, Mark, for open meeting law purposes, am I an official member of both committees?
No, not necessarily. I think
No.
no. I'm not gonna classify you as an official member of both because you're gonna be attending both. But can I just make sure I got the right names for the right committee? I have
Yep,
Jim, Jeremy, and Chuck for CIP,
right.
and I have Chris, and Tom and Lillian for operating.
Right.
Okay. And
Right.
then Hector, you're gonna float back and forth on both.
Right.
Okay.
So back to Jim Sproul's question, if CIP is only 3 people, then 2 constitutes a
Two's enough.
quorum.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, that answers that. And then on the operating budget subcommittee, there would need to be 3
Yes.
to have a
Right.
quorum. Okay. All right. That sounds good. Thank you all for that. The last item in topics for discussion, item 4D, is to approve the 2025 meeting calendar, which Mark sent around a couple of weeks ago. And as usual, we have 2 meetings for each month except for July and August, when there's only 1 meeting. It looked fine for me. Does anybody have any comments on the meeting schedule for 2025? Is everybody okay with it?
Move the approval of the calendar.
Right.
Yeah, good.
Chris Lozon, would you call the roll?
Yes, Hector,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yep.
Jim,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Chris King,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so it's unanimous.
Great, good. Thank you. Any correspondence from members of the committee, any matters that you want to raise?
I have one. Mark had mentioned the possibility of Tom presenting his report at the January 30th town council meeting. Is that
Mhm.
still a possibility?
Not from my point of view. I'll be in Mexico.
Oh, well, he can't do it then, can he?
Well, you could zoom in
Sure.
from the beach.
I could do it accompanied by marangas or something.
Yeah,
What
There
date
you-
would be good for you, Tom?
yeah. What works for you? It's kind of
What
driven
works for
by.
you?
I
Because
don't
you're
think
the
I
guy.
should, Mark had raised this with me. I think it doesn't make sense to delay it. I think, anyone can deliver it.
Well, I would voice a different viewpoint that you've done so much excellent work on the analysis that
No,
I think that you're essential.
Well,
You're
I'm
not suf-
really going
you're
to
not
disagree in the sense that we want this to be a CFAC report and not a
Yeah.
Tom report, okay?
Yeah, and it will be a CFAC report. I'll be sitting up there with you, but I'd vote to have you be there. And I think that would, that would help the presentation. And this is, you don't have to do slides or anything. You can just speak to the memo and then, respond to questions from town council. It's not a formal thing. But I would ask Tom that you let us know, as Lillian just asked, when you're available in February. When are you back from Baja California or wherever you're going?
The 1st of February.
You're back the 1st of February. Oh, how convenient. Okay. Well, Mark, maybe we could talk to Mr. Tamish and pick a day in February that would work for the council schedule.
Yeah, I did have a conversation with President Tamish, and he said whenever this committee is ready to come forward, they'll put you on any agenda when you're ready.
Okay.
So they
Right.
do meet February 6th and February 27th. If you want to try to shoot for one of those meetings, there's no urgency
Right.
presentation of the report. I mean, but really, we don't want this to get stale.
Yeah.
So, we sooner the better. So maybe check your calendars for those 2 dates and, figure out who's going to be there in attendance to present and answer questions.
Yeah.
Now let the president know what date you prefer.
Yeah.
to pick.
Well, February 6th works for me. Tom, are you available then?
Okay.
6 p.m. on Thursday, February 6th.
Yeah, that should be okay. Yeah, that should be
Okay.
okay.
Okay, good. Thank you for your responding to the call of duty for this. All right, that's great. So Mark, you'll put in a formal request for February 6th. Let's see, other agenda items. Any other correspondence from committee members? Jim Sproul, did you want to ask the question about sidewalks?
Oh, that was actually, it was a part of, I should have brought it up when Jeremy was speaking that, there was lots of discussion at the CIP about projects being budgeted for the actual pavement. It's like sewers, actual pavements themselves. And there was no, at least there was a conversation about not doing the sidewalks, which prompted me to think does either A, seems odd, or B, maybe there should be like the private road, like the roads, maybe there should be a standard allotment or for the sidewalks within the towns, that there might be $1 million, or like we do with the roads, we annualize 4 million a year for road paving, etc. Maybe there should be something along the same lines as sidewalks, but yeah, that's what my thought was on that topic. I don't know if it holds any water, but
Mark Milner, when DPW budgets for roads, if a road is being, say it's being resurfaced and there's a sidewalk on that road, does DPW include in its estimate any expenses related to maintaining or renovating the sidewalk?
Yeah, so how this topic came up was that, we have a public roads maintenance program, and I think somebody asked whether or not sidewalks were included in that public roads maintenance program, to which DPW responded, no, it's the maintenance of the road, which includes the drainage systems within that road. But sidewalks are handled separately. They have separate capital funding requests in for specific sidewalk improvements or the installation of new sidewalks if the sidewalk currently doesn't exist on a particular roadway. So they're separate and apart from one another.
Okay, so there's just this year, there happened to be no capital requests for sidewalks. Is that fair?
There was a submission for a
Okay.
sidewalk improvement program. Yes.
Oh, there was.
Yep.
Okay.
Separate
So
from the public roads maintenance program.
Okay.
They're not combined into one program.
Jim Sproul, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was a paraphrase what the discussion was.
Yeah.
And so it just struck me as odd that that would not be part of, if you're doing a road improvement, why the sidewalk would not be included in that roadway, but I'm assuming they'd have to then go ask for capital to do the sidewalk.
Right. Well, of course, doing a sidewalk where one doesn't exist now, that's a very involved undertaking, because typically you're encroaching on the people's front yards, and you need variances in some cases, and so that's a whole undertaking to install a new sidewalk where none exists. In Osterville, there's some discussion about putting a sidewalk on East Bay Road down to Dowser's Beach.
Right.
And Griffin Bowden came and presented to the OVA, the Osterville Village Association, and went through all the detail of what's involved to put in a sidewalk de novo. So that's a very involved undertaking.
Yeah, as far as existing sidewalks go, remember, they don't necessarily deteriorate at the same rate as the road infrastructure, because you have a lot of vehicle traffic going off of that, going on that road, and so typically deteriorates a lot faster than a sidewalk would. So that's why they're two separate programs. We manage the road infrastructure with a program that gives it a condition index, and DPW targets the worst roads to try to get them the grade on those roads back up, and the sidewalks are handled differently for that reason, really, because of the rate they deteriorate is different.
All right, thank you for that. So communications from staff, Mark, anything you want to bring up, and in your comments, can we talk about a potential agenda for 2 weeks from today?
I have nothing additional for this meeting, but based on our conversations tonight, I think we have it's DPW coming for our next meeting, which is, I believe, on the 27th, 2 weeks from today. So Public Works will be here. Probably Director Santos, Assistant Director Steen, I think Town Engineer Griffin Bodine, and perhaps our Town Architect Mark Marinaccio will be here as well, to present DPW's highest priority projects for fiscal year.
So they're already committed to the 27th.
Yes.
Right.
Will
Okay.
they also focus on 2026?
Yes, they're going to focus on the 2026 requests.
I
Yes.
think would be way
So
too
many projects,
complex.
we don't have time, as you saw. We barely got through all departments FY26 project requests, and remember that it was only the general fund. We didn't have the enterprise funds present their FY26 requests. It's just too many. And really, we focus on the general fund because of the limited resources that the general fund has, and there's just so many projects. We have to go through an exercise to try to flush out the highest priorities.
Okay, but on the 27th, CWMP will be presented as part of DPW's
If you
talk.
want them to talk about the CWMP, yeah, we can include that. I'll reach out to DPW and let them know that you'd like to have a conversation about their CWMP request as well.
So given the magnitude of the spending, I think either next meeting or in a separate meeting, have DPW talked about. I'd take guidance from you, Mark, as to whether we can do CWMP and then DPW in general in one meeting. Okay.
Yeah, we
All right.
probably can, but that'll be the full 2 hours.
Yeah. Speaking of full 2 hours, we're now over 2 hours into tonight's meeting, so we should probably wrap up. No matters reasonably anticipated by the chair. Anything else that anyone else wants to bring up? I thought tonight's meeting was excellent. We got a lot accomplished.
Agreed.
Any other comments? Questions? All right. Well, having none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Right. Chris L., please call the roll.
Hector,
Yes, sir.
Chuck,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Chris King,
Yes, sir.
and I'm a yes, so we agree.
Excellent.
Enough.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.